The rat sent me. The rat sent you? Did Sawa send you to the rat? Yo, Segs? Yo, slapping sense at the kids? Yo, Segs? I like sandwich. Just because it's gonna be hard, okay? And for this one, I won't look at chat for 5 minutes. Faulty understands. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking you could like beat the child, beat the human for like a positive reinforcement to reinforce the behavior. Okay, no. There's reinforcement and then there's the opposite one. There's positive and negative. Adding a stimuli, taking away a stimuli. Reinforcement or something. Deterrence? Was it deterrence? Was that the word? Positive deterrence, negative deterrence. I forget. Okay. 5 minutes on sandwiches. I won't look at chat for these 5 minutes. Boom. Minimize. Boom. Sandwiches. Okay, this applies to most dishes, but I like beef. I like beef and pork. Pork is kind of hard for a sandwich because sometimes it can be very dry, whereas beef kind of retains that moisture and that savoriness regardless of what you put with the sandwich.
There.
Chicken,
Is that better?
chicken
That's
ends
a
up
little
being
bit too
dry
loud.
unless you put a lot of mayo. And
How's
mayo
that?
is
How's
very
that? Is
healthy.
this
It
is this
makes
better?
a
Can
lot
you hear
of
me now?
fat, which is more natural, right? I like
Why am I
crunch.
watching my
I
own
like
stream?
texture in my
We got
sandwiches.
Brolime stream rolled up here.
I
Brolame.
like a lot of lettuce in my
Cause he
sandwiches.
had
I usually like
Rymy's
tomato
stream
because
pulled
tomato
up earlier, and I said
usually the beef
I'd pull
tomato,
his up if
but then
Rymy
there's,
was still live, but she
acidic
raided
and
into him. But
sour. They kind
I
of
still
clash.
I still
Sometimes
pulled
when
up
you add some
Brolame's stream because
some needed
I
acidity,
thought that
some
might be
freshness, some juice
I thought that might be a
to the
little bit
sandwich,
interesting,
right?
maybe.
But usually the acidity I don't
We're
like.
watching
Sandwich toppings,
watching a
mustard,
chuba, watching a
sandwiches,
chuba. Am I a chuba?
unless it's like
Am I a chuba? I've
specific
got
deli
I've
type
got
sandwich.
PNG.
When I
Does
think of sandwiches,
does that make me
I
a
guess I can't
VTuber?
count
That's a
burgers, but I think of like deli
hmm.
sandwiches, cold cuts.
Is
I
a
really
is
like
a
cold cuts.
PNG
I
tuber a
actually prefer
VTuber?
cold cuts most of the time compared to like
Anyways, we got a little bit of chatting before we get into it. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of what makes certain ideas interesting or not interesting. And we're gonna do a little bit of thinking. We're gonna thonk a little bit. For all philosophical questions, refer to Socrates. Well, I've got some Wikipedia tabs pulled up. You're more of a tuber, no V. Yeah, maybe. I've got a PNG. I'm a PNG. So, but it's not an anime PNG. So, what does that make me? What exactly am I? What am I exactly? Who am I? What am I doing here? What is this that I'm trying to do? Well, to go back to this, we got our text editor pulled up. And what are my goals? I want to make interesting stuff. I want to be interesting. It is my goal to be interesting. Like a lot of people their goal is to make number bigger. That's not really my goal. My goal is that I want the things that I make to be intrinsically compelling, whether or not people see it. Like I want it to be able to stand on its own as something that's worthwhile. And so in order to do that, I think it'd be a good idea to take a look at what does it mean for something to be interesting in the first place. Like what is this that I'm chasing after? Like what is this goal? Why am I doing this? Why? You know what? Like what is it that like what is the goalpost? It's harder to measure interest than numbers. Yeah, and that's the thing is the numbers lie. Is this is the thing is like, I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, and there's a lot of people who make stuff that I really like that have very low numbers, and there's a lot of people who do really well that have high numbers, and there's a lot of people who do really well that don't make very interesting stuff that have high numbers, and there's like it's all over the place. It's all over the place. So like I don't for me the numbers don't really tell the whole story, and I'm more interested in what is the quality, and how do we achieve better quality, right? That's interesting. Anything but Brolime. Brolime's it. I think Brolime's interesting. I know there's some people who are like, ooh, males. Well, I'm male. He's male. Temp's male. We're all males here. But yeah, like what does it mean to be interesting? I think that's a tough thing to answer because we don't have metrics on it. It's not easy to make experiments for it. But that's the wrong thing. Do I have this? Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure this is capturing first. Okay, so back over to here. Yeah, I make streams. I do these things, and I want them to be good. I want what I'm doing to be worthwhile, and I think there's some of these that I'm more proud of than others. I think there's some of them that are complete garbage. Quite frankly, there's some of them I'm really not too happy about, and there's some of them that I think are pretty great. Especially some of the like this. This was. I'm not gonna play the whole thing on stream right now, but I'm really really happy with this one. The AI ones, I think are interesting to some degree, but I think it relies a lot on the originals. You know? Like it's very derivative. And I'm not very happy about that. I'm not very happy about that. So I wanna understand, why do I think some of these are more interesting than others, and how do I gauge what makes something more or less interesting? And I think Brolime, when I first popped into his stream, he was like, "Oh yeah, I saw your stream, and here's my thoughts." Is he said, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly word for word what he said, but it was something to the effect of, if you don't know anything about something, it's not interesting. If you know a little bit about something, then it's interesting, but if you know everything about something, then it becomes not interesting very much anymore. I love the Brolime song and regularly listen to it. This one? Which he did the rap over this one. I should link that. Or do you mean this one? I like this one a lot too, by the way. Which, yeah, that one's outputting. I'm gonna listen to this one because it's short. I'm self-shilling. So yeah, this was like a little rap over a guitar track that I recorded and some like MIDI drums. Oh, you can't hear it. You can't hear it. Ah! I thought I had the audio routed. No, I don't have the audio routed. Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, let me route the audio. That and that. There.
Yeah.
There. Now, I'm sorry. Well, I just sat there for like a minute with like no audio, but so yeah, that was like a little like rap thing that I did over. I that was 8 months ago. Wow. That I recorded the how I did that was I laid out the MIDI drums, and then I recorded the chords with the guitar, and then like the melody line with the guitar that I copy pasted. I think twice. I want to say it might have been more than that. And then I rapped over it. Everything you do is a check mark on a list, and when you're through, you're gonna cease and yeah. So that was because he was planning on graduating, I think sometime that summer, and I wanted to make this to show my appreciation for the things he's doing, and show that he's not just spitting this out into the void. There's like actual real people. Oh my god, it's my stream. Oh my god, I'm watching myself. Ah, this is weird. Oh my god, you can hear the thing I'm fidgeting with. Okay, I'm clicking off of that because that's too weird. Okay, so yeah, so I make things, and I want the things I make to be better, and so I want to understand what is it that makes them interesting or not interesting, and the thing that Brolome said is, if you know nothing about it, it's not interesting. If you know some stuff about it, it's interesting. And if you know a lot of things about it, it's not interesting anymore. Like if you know everything, then what is there left to learn about it? Streamception, yeah. It's weird. I'm watching my own stream. So what we want to work on is I want to develop a better theory of mind. Because this is this is a skill, refers to the capacity to understand other people by ascribing mental states to them. A theory of mind includes the knowledge that others' beliefs, desires, intentions, emotions, and thoughts may be different from one's own. And this is important because the things that are interesting to me are not necessarily interesting to everybody else. Interest is subjective. But there's still things we can learn about it. Also, something that's interesting here. It has been proposed that deficits in theory of mind can occur in people with autism, anorexia nervosa, schizophrenia, dysphoria, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, cocaine addiction, and brain damage caused by alcohol's neurotoxicity. So this is me, Cypher, pronouns Twitter people, Nyana, Brolave, Tenma, like, like, you know, like, this is all, like, this is just going down the list. This is all of us. Fuck. This is all the Menhera. If you're Menhera, then it affects your theory of mind. So we need to work on rebuilding this. Because we want to predict if other people think the things that we're making is interesting. Right? If we want to figure out if our stuff is interesting, we need to think if other people think it's interesting, right? And this is flow state. This kind of relates to what Brolame was talking about. Is if you know, this is skill level versus challenge level, and you've got boredom and anxiety. And on one end, it's not interesting. On the other end, it's not interesting. And when you're in the flow state, that's when things are interesting, right? And it's when your challenge is matched with your skill level. And if things are too challenging and it's like you don't know what you need to know, then you end up anxious about it and it's not fun, right? It's not interesting. But if you know everything about it, then there's nothing more to learn. It becomes not interesting that way either. And so you have to go down the middle. You have to match your challenge to, you have to push yourself. You have to be like right on the border of chaos and order. Like up here, this is chaos. Down here, this is order. Too much order, it's not interesting. Too much chaos, it's not interesting. So you've got to be on the border. And this is kind of this thing, which this thing represents a lot of different things, but one of the things it represents is order and chaos. Is you've got, or one of them is chaos. I forget which is which, but one of them is chaos, one of them's order, and then the dot is like the chaos within the order and the order within the chaos, and then the line across is like the path between the two. And this is where the interesting stuff happens. And I'm probably butchering what that means because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But that's my understanding of it. So another thing is that interest in topics is something that happens in the human brain. It's not something that happens in a computer. It happens in your mind, and your mind is the product of a biological process. And we came about as a result of evolution, which means evolutionary psychology applies. And like there's a lot you can get into with this. About how the brain, like how we came about, developed way back in like the evolutionary days, like when Grug was gathering around a campfire and hunting animals with spears and whatnot, or even like a lot of it is vestigial from like the monkeys and the mammals and everything that we came from prior to that, and a lot of it is held over from then. And so we have maladaptations, and we have exadaptations, which is where you have a trait that is co-opted through the process of evolution to be reused for something. And so sometimes it doesn't behave exactly perfectly because it's being used for something that it never originally developed for. So the brain works. What I'm getting at is the brain works in really weird ways sometimes. But the thing that we're looking for is executive functions. And executive functions are the cognitive processes that control our cognitive behavior. Like this is what determines what you do. It's like when you're looking at the YouTube homepage, this isn't the YouTube homepage, it's like you're presented with a set of options and you click on one of them. What is it that determines what you click on? It's your executive functions. And what is it that we're trying to evaluate with that function of what we click on? And it's what's interesting to us. What's interesting to us? And why is it interesting to us? It's because we evolved our mechanism for interest. So what's the priority when we were evolving? And that the priority for evolution is to survive and produce offspring. So when we're when we're looking at YouTube videos on a very deep subconscious level, we're thinking, is this 10-minute or 1-minute video or 2-hour stream or whatever, is it in some way going to help me survive and produce offspring? Or in some way help affect that? And there's this thing called yak shaving, which is it's programming lingo for a seemingly endless series of small tasks that have to be completed before the next step in a project to move forward. This is where you have to do one thing in order to finish another thing, in order to finish another thing, in order to finish another thing. Like, for example, you have to survive. In order to survive, you need to get food. In order to get food, you need to get money. In order to get money, you have to do your job. In order to do your job, you have to be good at your job. In order to be good at your job, you need to learn how to do it. You need to get education. You need to go on YouTube and figure it out, which is how you end up with like machining videos in your YouTube recommends, like Titans of CNC. We can pull that up. Titans of CNC. Like I follow these guys, and this is videos about like how to machine stuff, which yeah. So like it's videos about how to use these machines. And they're popping off, right? Like there's a lot of people that are interested in this, and it's because watching this, in a way, it helps people put food on the table. It helps them survive, and that's what I think. I think that's the root of it. I think that's the route back to it is. We're trying to figure out how to survive, and we're looking for things to help us survive. And there's a long route of trying to figure it out, But at the root of it, it's survival. I think. But again, there's maladaptations, which is to say that sometimes, like, evolution didn't produce us. Like, we're not fully formed, engineered exactly to what we're supposed to do. We've got maladaptations and exadaptations, and things aren't quite perfect. So if you think about, like, what exactly is cute, and I think it's probably an adaptation that developed to protect our own offspring and the offspring of those related to us. But because it's more of an abstract phenomenon, there's lots of other things that end up falling under that category, like animals, right? Like we, so that be an example of an adaptation is during, like, in the evolutionary history at, like, the level of mammals didn't have pets, but now humans have pets. So that instinctual behavior of cuteness now has to be exapted to our pets. And now that we're on, like, now fast forward, now we're on the internet age, that adaptation has been exapted to our internet chubas. Hi, Test 3-san. I'm doing some very, very schizo rambling about how I can make better YouTube videos. And this is a very, very long, complex, complicated train of thought that's a little bit beyond me. But I'm trying to get a grasp on it, and I'm trying to get my thoughts out there. Because I think it's something that's interesting to me. And I'm trying to understand what is it that's interesting. I'm trying to understand what is interesting, and the conclusion I'm coming to so far is that it has something to do with survival, but it's also wrapped up in the particular details of the vestigial processes that came about through our evolution. It's okay, get subscribed. Thank you. I'm like tearing my hair out. I'm going like completely Pepe Sylvia mode right now. Trying to figure this out. So oh wait, I'm out of my flow state now. So essentially, if I want my videos to be more interesting, it has to be helpful to you in some way through some long chain of helpfulness back to survival. Like, it has in some way, or it has to appeal to some trait that's left over that developed in support of survival. Because this is music. Why are we interested in music? Like, how does music help us survive? And I forget where I read it. I don't have the tab pulled up, but I think I remember reading that music is a way that demonstrates motor skills, in that if you can demonstrate rhythm, then you have good fine motor skills, and motor skills are useful for a lot of things for survival. But being able to demonstrate that is important for propagating the reproduction of motor skills. And that's why music is important, is because music can demonstrate that. Which then, because that's appealing, and that becomes interesting, that hooks into our executive functions, then that becomes interesting to our YouTube videos. But AI covers, this seems interesting because, like, we hear the music, it sounds nice. We hear the voice sounds nice, but it's AI. Like, all I'm doing is downloading this video, doing some filters on it, and putting it back together, and it's not actually demonstrating the thing that it was originally adapted to demonstrate. Like, I'm not showing any motor skills. I'm not showing any skill at all, really. Like, this is just putting the thing together from the original, essentially. Music is the way to communicate without words or language. You arise an army with a horn and drums. You soothe the people with violas and fiddles. That's a very good point as well, is it's also a form of communication. That's also important. That's also very important. And it communicates emotion. And I think that's important for art in general, which is that art is meant to communicate. And communication in general is very important for survival. And so communication is selected for. Voice of the soul, yeah. And there's some things that are very difficult to communicate with words alone, especially emotions. And so art and music is very important for to be able to communicate that sort of thing. And maybe that's where the AI covers do become interesting. Is that even though it doesn't take a lot of skill to produce something like this, you get people who are interested in it for the emotional value. So even though it's not interesting as a result of difficulty, it's still interesting for other reasons. By the way, executive functions. Yeah. Again. Executive functions are impaired with ADHD, autism, and other central nervous system disorders. So I do have autism, and Yana has ADHD, and as a result, the executive functions are either impaired or function very differently. The thing, the special interests of people with autism are very, very particular, like model trains. Or actually, here. These are interesting. I think these are interesting. Like okay. It doesn't show that I watch them because I'm on YouTube. Okay, I watch some of them but like, I think his videos are really interesting. But again, it's because my executive functions work differently than a lot of other people because autism. To know, I watch Neko art covers for funny. And yeah, so humor, that's another thing, is that humor is interesting. Humor is interesting, but humor is very complicated. And what makes something funny? What is it that makes something funny? Like, I don't really have a good formula for that either. And I think if you were to try to ascribe a formula to it, it would become very, very difficult. So, getting back to our original goal, trying to make things that are interesting or consistently interesting is in and of itself a difficult goal. Because it is a very difficult thing to describe. It's a very difficult thing to describe, especially when you do want to be funny. And I do want some of the things I do to be funny. Like, but I don't know. I don't have the sense of humor that someone like Pippa has. I'm not that funny. Oh, but so maybe I'm not just like her for real, because she's way more talented. That's for sure. But yeah, you know. But you could follow a very particular formula of one particular thing that's interesting over and over and over. Or interesting to a very particular group of people. And I think most YouTubers do that because you develop an audience that are interested in that particular thing. And then by being consistent, you deliver the same thing that's always interesting to them over and over and over. But then you see where that leads is eventually it stops being interesting. Because once you learn enough about it, and then it goes into the boredom category. So that's hard. Something funny is something that's kind of a shock to the system for reaction or something, I think. Yeah, I think there's definitely the undermining of expectations is very important there. And that's very important in music too. Where it's important to set up some expectations and then do something a little bit different, where like if everything's as expected, you end up here. But if everything's completely random, you end up here. So you need to set up some expectations and then just subvert them a little bit so that it's not quite what you were expecting, but it's a little bit different. And by doing that, you end up in a flow state. And by being in a flow state, it's fun and it's interesting and it's enjoyable. So I think it's important to maintain this flow state in order for whatever it is to be interesting. Whereas, something like this, where it's I mean, you can hear me talking, but like it's a little bit blurry and there's a lot of noise and it's hard to make out exactly what I'm doing. And so I think it's very easy to lose interest on this. Whereas I think if I did the video a little bit differently, which I ended up doing in this one, where I pre-recorded it and then did the narration afterwards, I think this is a lot more interesting. Except that a man can't know everything ever, making channels like Dong Vsauce Tech Channel's popular history last long. Yeah, but you can know a lot of things. And eventually that kind of thing, like, you kind of run out of stuff to cover. And the other thing is that sometimes that random trivia stops being interesting because it's not really applicable to your own life much anymore. I feel like the person who wants to be funny needs to be relaxed, confident in what they're saying or doing, because once they're not, people feel awkward. Yeah. It takes practice. It certainly takes practice. Yeah, that was a cool stream. This one or the other one? This one? By the way, I'm mad at myself because I clickbaited so hard with this because I made it seem like I was gonna do gun stuff with this. But in reality, I'm just machining a part for a friend's auger for his snowblower. Yeah, a coworker's snowblower part, basically. So that was really shitty of me. I don't like that. I don't like being untruthful like that. That's something that I did very early on that I'm not happy that I did. I think this was interesting. This one was really interesting because I think a lot of people are really into doing the AI art stuff now, and I think this maybe demonstrated some useful insight, which is that you can get away with shorter prompts. Like, you don't necessarily always need quality tags. You don't necessarily need a huge amount of specification, and when you don't specify it, you get random output, and you get output with a lot of variety, and sometimes you want a lot of variety. You don't necessarily always want to try to prompt something super extremely specific. Sometimes you want to let the computer just do the work for you and just come up with something random and hopefully interesting. Oh yeah, the one you had up that I was around for. Oh, yeah, the this one. I think, yeah, you were there for that one. Yeah, I think this was fun. Yeah, so fun fact, like, this was actually, like, I recorded the video for this the morning after the previous stream. Like, I did this one with Foxy Roxy, where we did the flags, and like I ended up streaming. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. I didn't go to bed. I like, it was, the sun was starting to come up at the end of the stream, and at the end of that stream, I went out to the garage and did the machining for this stream. And then I finished that up and did the editing. And then after I was done with the editing for this video, I went to bed. And after I got up and started the stream. Yeah. I think the AI art stuff is cool because some people just don't have the time, talent, money, whatever to make their thought real. Yeah, I think the AI art. So I think there's a lot of artists that are really mad about AI art because like it's trained on their art and it's like it's taking our jobs, but and I don't want to say like, oh yeah, the whole Shadowversity, the AI art is as good as real art, because honestly, like we've seen it, like it fucks up a lot. It fucks up really bad a lot, and if you are trying to get something really super specific, it doesn't always work, and like it's got a lot of problems, but I think for certain types of projects where you want to take the art and combine it with a bunch of other things and produce something greater, it's a good way to have it's a good way to source some, like, how would I put it, like cannon fodder, except not cannon fodder, because that's like for war. It's like the stock art for putting something together, where like in hip hop there's this idea of sampling, where you take a section of some pre-existing piece of music and you loop it and layer it with a bunch of other stuff, like a drum loop or something like that. And the thing is with that is that you're using somebody else's copyright for that. And like a big one is the Honey Drippers Impeach the President. Like this loop is really, 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 really popular in hip hop music. But here's the thing. There's a record company that bought the rights to this a few years ago. I don't know how many years ago. But they bought the rights to this specifically for the purpose of getting royalties out of it, because people use it for hip hop. And nowadays, if you want to use it and put money on Spotify or put music on Spotify that uses it, it's like thousands of dollars in royalties for it. And it's just like, it's not feasible. It's not feasible to use it in the way that they used to use it before. So one way around that is to use AI that's trained on music kind of like that, because yeah, like that's what they're doing with copyright. That's what they're doing with like, you think copyright is in place. Copyright was created to protect artistic work and to provide an incentive for people to create artistic expressions and to be able to make money off of that. And the thing is now it's being used for the opposite, where there's derivative works where copyright is being used to stifle the production of it. So yeah, I'm very much anti-copyright, and this AI stuff, like you know. Well, first of all, I should say, like, the AI covers, these do get copyright notices because it is picked up by the copyright system. Like this one, I think. Oh, maybe not that one. But like which oh, I'm looking at streams. Like this one, it does get picked up that it's by them, and it does get a copyright notice, but because he's not an asshole, it's just a copyright claim, which means there's ads that get put on the video and the ad revenue goes to him, which is, I think that's a really great, I think that's a really, really great way to handle copyright. But there's some people who don't do that. There's some people who don't go for the system and instead go for copyright strikes, where if you use their music, then they take down your video and you get a strike on your channel. And if you get 3 strikes on your channel goes away. So say if I wanted to do an AI cover of Hotel California, that would be very bad. That would be very bad. I couldn't do that. And in fact, there was a guy who learned to play it on bass guitar and did his own cover with his own hands, like with his own instrument, with his own fingers, and recorded it and put it on YouTube. And he got a copyright strike against his channel for it. He got a copyright strike against his channel for learning to play their song and playing it himself. Like that's messed up. That's messed up, man. Like, so the argument against AI that's founded in copyright, I really don't agree with, because I don't really agree with copyright in the first place. And that's kind of my thoughts on that. That's kind of my thoughts on it. I'm tangenting. I'm getting away from the idea of what's interesting. But I don't know. Maybe my thoughts on copyright are interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit too political. Maybe it's a little too controversial. I don't know. But that's what I think. But on the other hand, this was a remix of Temps, right? Like, this is a derivative work of Temps' song, which Temps was a derivative work of Pippa's stream. You know? And like, and then of course Lalame in his stream, Dr. Lalame, right? He did a stream. Where was it? This one. I don't know when it was exactly. Somewhere like there. I don't know. Somewhere in here, he played mine, right? Like, he played this. And like, through this long chain of derivative works, nobody's copyright striking anybody. Nobody's copyright claiming anybody. And I think this is really great. Like, I think this is how things should be done. Like, you should be able to build on the works of people that came before you. You know? I think it's really, really important to be able to do that. I think it's really important. Or like this, you know, like this. This is another one. This is another one. Like this, I made the backing track, and Lalame rapped over this. But like, this meme itself, right? This was the picture that was taken outside of the billboard that was supposedly Lalame. It's not. It's not actually. Spoiler alert, Lalame didn't actually get arrested. It was somebody else. But this was like a picture of them getting arrested. And I took that picture and I made this meme and I posted it on the boards. And I wouldn't be able to do that without the original work that I'm deriving from. And the inclusion of this into this is saying something about the original image, right? Like this, it's sampling is what it is. This is visual sampling. Nah, this has to be lol. The timing of, yeah. I'm not Lalame. I'm not Lalame. I'm not Lalame. I'm just a really big fan of Lalame. I'm a big fan of Lalame. I think the things that he does are very, very interesting. And that's kind of getting back to what we're doing, which is we're trying to figure out what's interesting. And Lalame is very interesting. Lalame is consistently very interesting. And, you know, like, all the streams he does, they're always really compelling. Even when it's not Lalame, even when it's Temp. You know, Temp's interesting too, right? Like, let's. Oh, it's pulling it up here. Yeah, like. This had the bait, or where was the? There was one of them. Fake fan. Fake. Oh, there was one of these that really, really killed me. Time to quit flavor. Like, what kind of fucking Temp is his fucking thumbnail for, and what it was is the joke stream of applying to Phase Connect, and that was really interesting too. Is him forcing himself to go through his own work and look at what's interesting and like filling the thing out. Like, that was really interesting. And I think there's a lot to learn from this that could be useful for your own self to be able to fill out an application for something like that, or maybe fill out an application for another job, because a lot that you would take away from this is applicable to that sort of thing, and that goes back to like survival and whatnot. You know, like you could pick out any one of these and find something that's useful to learn from it. I think that's what really makes Temp really interesting, is he's always doing something that you can look at and try to emulate and become better at something, and become better at whatever he's trying to do by following in his footsteps. I think that's what makes Temp really, really interesting, is he's somebody that you can learn from. So I'm basically Hitler. It's 100 degrees. I reuse thumbnails, so I'm basically Hitler. It's so fucking funny. Oh my god. That's all I do. My content is all grift and copying others. No, it's not. It's not. What you're... Okay, so you're probably looking at a wiki and figuring out how do you put things together, but you're taking that knowledge and you're applying it to something that's interesting to you, which is making fan content for Phase Connect, or making fan content for Lalame, or making fan content for Rhyme, or someone else, right? But the thing is, when you do that, you're paving the road for someone else to look at the things that you're doing and being able to learn from it, and being able to extract information out of that and apply it to something that they find interesting. Like one that was really, really applicable to me was which one was it? It was, I mean, all of them, right? But there was one of them I left a comment at the time. It was the Blender one. Was it this one? Yeah. Yeah, you were working on Blender, right? And what did I say? I don't know much about 3D rigging or character modeling, so it's interesting to hear your thoughts going through the workflow. I'll probably come back to this later when I can pay more attention. Because what you're doing here is you're demonstrating you're working through doing something useful in Blender. And I still got to go back through and watch this some more. Cuz I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with Blender. Like I'm still not any good at using Blender. But here you are using it, and I can look at this and pick out something interesting to pull from it. And yeah, I think that makes you really, really interesting. I think that makes the things that you're doing really, really, really interesting. Or yeah, like this. Like, okay, so like I do a lot of this sort of thing myself, right? But you're doing it in Audacity. I usually do it in Ardour. But even looking at someone else's workflow, there's still things that I can figure out from this. And there is things that I can learn from this, or things that I can learn about how other people view the things that I know about. Or so even when it's something that I do know a lot about, it's still interesting because it's another perspective on it. So that, like, this is really, really interesting. Like, I think this is really, really interesting. I'm like just flying off the handle and not reading chat. I need to come back. That's fine. I'd like to have my content hit 70% originality someday. I think you've got a lot of originality in what you do. You can't create from nothing. You got to start with something while putting your own spin and style on it. That's true, but I think again, it goes back to the flow state. I think if you take too much from others, you risk this. But if you try to go off into the deep end without following any guidance, then you end up here where you don't know what the fuck you're doing. So you need to be somewhere along the middle where you're borrowing some ideas from other people out of necessity, because you need some kind of framework to get going. But on the other hand, you need to introduce your own ideas to change things and make it different, and make it your own ideas, and introduce your own originality into it to make it interesting, or otherwise you're just re-uploading content. And that, like, just re-uploading the same... Re-uploading the same thing is not interesting. That's how I feel about that. That's kind of how I feel about some of the things I do. And that's kind of why I want to do stuff that isn't just straight AI covers, because it kind of feels like I'm just downloading something, applying a filter, and re-uploading it. And so I don't... I mean, to some degree it is interesting because it has the emotional weight of somebody we miss like Mellow. Like she hasn't. I mean, she's back as well. I don't know if I should say, because the etiquette around PLs and whatnot, but this was something that a lot of people missed, was the sound of her voice. And to be fair, this was trained from old VODs that I still had downloaded of Mellow from before she deleted her channel. So this is legitimately a model trained on Marie Mello. It's not somebody else. Yeah, so it's interesting to see a new perspective on something you're not normally interested about. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's true. I'm not normally interested about kids beating each other up, but if Brolame talks about it, I could listen forever. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And there's another interesting thing there as well, which is that we're kind of interested in danger a little bit. And why is that? And that's because we can pick out bits of information that help us form a model of how social dynamics work around danger, like around fights or around the legal system or police or what have you with that, or like the copyright system or that. And like you can pick out that information and apply it to your own actions and be able to better predict the results of your own actions. And because your actions are ultimately taken for the purpose of furthering your own survival, that's how it becomes useful for that. I mean, you haven't done it to the point of where the interest would fall off, so you're still in a good area for what you're doing. Yeah, maybe. But I think for me, like even something like this, as dumb as this sounds, I still think this is. By the way, I never really explained why I did this, did I? Other than like, I said I made this to prove a point. And what was the point I was trying to prove? With this? The thing I was trying to say with this is that I notice a lot of VTubers in like some of the groups were like tangentially related with like people like Nyana or Senna or Pippa. Kind of put original songs like up on a pedestal. Like it's a really, really big goal that you need to put a boatload of production into, and like you need to hire a bunch of people and do a bunch of crazy stuff. And I made this to prove a point that you can do something that's very, very minimal. Like this technically is an original song, and it may not be very good and it may not be the best, but it's original, and like some people do like it, surprisingly. I certainly I think it's a little bit overly simple, but how hard would it be to make this? Like I made this in a night. Like it's so yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. It doesn't have to be super ridiculously freaking complicated to make an original song. You need music and you need vocals. And so if you can make some music, and if you can make some vocals, and you put the two together, then you've got yourself a song, and that's a song, and that's an original song. That's why I made that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're retreading the same path. Lol, if they haven't seen it, it's interesting to them. Yeah. Gotta find that new jungle to hack through. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the flow state is if you're retreading the same ground and you don't find the new jungle to hack through, then you don't stay in the flow state. And you need to stay in the flow state to stay energized and to have fun and to really enjoy what you're doing. But the other risk is if you bite off more than you can chew, then you end up on the anxiety side of the flow state, and then you're not having very much fun either. And like this is where burnout happens, right? Like you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here, you want to be here, right? Like you want to be here. So like as your skill increases, you need to take on more challenge to match your skill level. And if you get into somewhere where you don't have a whole lot of skill, then you need to be careful how much you bite off, because then you're not gonna have the skill to match the level of challenge that you're approaching. So it's important to stay in this channel, to maintain interest and to maintain energy and to have fun. Like the high effort fun posts, right? Like you think high effort, that's your challenge level. Like your high effort fun posts, they exist up here, right? But if your skills aren't at the point where you can do a high effort fun post, then you end up here. But if your skills are like way down on this end, then now you're in business. But in order to get to here, you don't go like that, and you don't go like that either. Like you don't build your skills by doing the same tiny little challenge over and over and over. You climb up it, right? Like if you want to get to here, you got to start here, and you got to go up the curve. You got to go up the curve, right? Does that make sense? So I think interest lies where the flow is. So if you're someone who's not very good at music and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you want to start out with something like this. And it's okay to make an original song that's like this. Or like this, which is like my actual where I like kind of started doing stuff. Yeah, which, I mean, is it caption?
Let's fucking go! I am mentally stable. Beast! Kino! You fucking idiot! Fucking cringe!
Why?
Yeah. So this was something I worked on very, very early on when I was learning Ardour. And like the mixing's not great. There's like there's no reverb. There's like nothing else going on other than like the percussion from Senna's noises and Brolame's yelling. But this is still a lot of fun, and I'm still really proud of this, even though it was something I made very early on. And like, if I were approaching this again, I think I could do a lot better. But that's just the thing, is when you're starting out, you got to start out down on this end. You got to start out on something that doesn't have a very high challenge level. And like, this was still really, really interesting back when I was working on it. And I still think it's interesting today because it's, it's something that I did for people who I'm a big fan of. And I still think it holds up. Even if I could do better, I think I did a really good job on it at the time for what I knew back then. So I think that was still a really cool thing that I did. Wait, what DAW are you using? I'm using Ardour, which is an open source DAW. I can pull it up if you'd like. I can pull up Ardour. Can I open? Do I have that project actually? Oh. Is it this? No. No. I don't know. I can't find it right now. I'll pull up some other project I've got, I guess. Yeah, so like here's this one with like one of the AI covers, which I'll get a window capture here for that. Where's my window capture? Add window capture Ardour. Where's Ardour? There it is. And then lower it down so you can actually see chat and everything. Yeah. So this is what that looks like. So I've just got like 3 audio tracks here. I've got the original track, and then the vocals. Or no, this is the separated instrumental. It just named it backwards. And then this is the vocals that were separated and run through the AI. And then I chopped it at the parts where there aren't vocals and used the original track, because sometimes the separation isn't perfect, and it sounds better when you use the original track when you can. But other than that, that's as simple as it gets compared to, I don't know. What's something that would be more? Oh, there was that one that I did. I haven't shown it. The all. What did I actually name the project? All guitar song? Yeah, all guitar song. This is something I never showed on stream or in a video or anything. This is something I did. Andrew Huang has some. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Andrew Huang. Has some videos of how he edited random vocals into percussion sounds, bass sounds, etc. You could try that if you ever feel like it. So funny you say that. This is a little song that I did entirely using my electric guitar. Like, we've got like a kick thing that I made by like slapping the strings where the pickups are. We've got like a snare thing where I did strummed dead strings, and I put like an echo effect over it. We've got like a distorted, and yeah, I'm gonna hook up the audio so it plays into OBS real quick. Where's the master output? Here and here, and I'll play it for you guys. Yeah. Yeah, so that was pretty cool, I think. That was inspired by Mixin Dog, who did a project where he recorded over himself singing a bunch of times in Audacity, and I was like, oh man, I bet I could do that with guitar. And so I tried it, and like I didn't record straight through on all of them. Like obviously I copy pasted that a bunch of times. I copy pasted that a bunch of times. But I mean, all of this was recorded with my electric guitar, and I think it came out pretty cool. Thank you. But yeah, I would definitely say this had a higher challenge level than just an AI song cover, because this is like entirely original. Like everything in this is something that I recorded. I mean, like you could argue, I don't know, maybe the chords aren't original or something like that, or the idea of recording over myself a bunch of times isn't original, because that was Mixin Dog's idea. But I think it needs F sharp synth and clock ticking on background. I think I recorded this in A minor. I don't know. I forget exactly which key I recorded it in, but I want to try making a song now too. You inspired me. Yeah, like and that's the thing, is it doesn't have to be perfect to be enjoyable. Is we're human beings. We're people. Like the things that we make aren't going to be perfect, and a lot of the times it's the imperfections of trying to do the best that you can and not exactly succeeding, because you are a human being and not a robot, but showing that you did the best that you could and accomplishing something. I think that's I think that makes things really interesting. And again, it's like, to go back to the flow state, is like the challenge level is when you develop some degree of skills, like you got to go further up the challenge level and to maintain the flow state. And so like I think the AI covers are kind of roughly like down in here. Kind of down in here. Like an AI cover, I mean, there's some stuff you got to know about like keys and like maybe like putting reverb on the vocals sometimes, but like an AI cover, once you have the model, is not very difficult to put together. Aside from like when the model fucks up, but like there really isn't a whole lot you can do about the model fucking up, because it's like you put the vocal track into it and you get a vocal track out of it, and like sometimes you can like change the key and get a better result out of it, but a lot of the time you're just kind of fucked. If it doesn't read the pitch correctly, you're just fucked. But aside from that, it's like you download the audio, you put the vocal into the AI, you change the key until it's as good as you can get it, and then you change the key of the background music by pitch shifting it until it's where you need it, and then you put them back together. And that's it's not very high skill in my opinion. And so I think my skill level has gone a little bit in this direction, so I've got to go a little bit up this way, and do stuff like this, I think, for it to stay interesting. I used to make songs in the past, but I deleted all my files, so I had paralysis about starting writing again. Since I have only stock drum samples, but it'll work out. So something that I would recommend is maybe take a microphone into your kitchen and record tapping on a bunch of stuff. Because that's something I saw in somebody's video. I think it was... Fuck, who was that? It was some EDM producer. And like they got like a big package of like all the kitchen recordings, and they dumped it into this one plugin, which I don't have, and like sorted it out, and hey, what do you know, you've got some percussion samples, and you can make music out of that. Like you can and like with this one, this is where I used Senna making noises with her mouth for the percussion samples, right? Like you can do that. You could record yourself doing that, or you could record banging on pots and pans, or like you could use the fucking MIDI drums. Like if we go back over here, like we could add just general MIDI synth, and then like inputs, or not inputs. What am I doing? Wait, I don't need an audio track. I need a MIDI track, general MIDI, and then you change this to all the way down to room drums. Yeah. And then, hey. Right? Like you've got drums. Yeah, so like that's literally just a fucking free like this is the fucking default plugin in Ardor, and Ardor is free open source software. Like you can just download this and it comes with it, you know? So like you don't need to pay a shitload of money for like a whole bunch of sample packs, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's just free. It's just free. Or like there's this other one. There's do I have it in here? Oh, I don't have it installed on this computer yet. But there's another plugin that's called Decent Sampler, and you get the samples. Okay, I'm gonna post some links. And you're gonna go there and you're gonna download it right now. Decent sample. Okay, so here's the plugin for Decent Sampler, right? And piano book. Sample packs, and then you go Decent Sampler. Yeah. You go to this thing. You download. You go there. You got like all the free shit ever. You got all of the fucking free shit ever. And you can make so much goddamn music with that. It's good shit. And then like you know, MIDI keyboard, right? Which I just happen to have sitting on my desk and plugged in right now because reasons. You know, or like, you know what? Let me. Here. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm using Arch Linux, right? And, you know, Arch, by the way. I'll add another window capture. And this will be this one? Yeah, okay. We'll install Decent Sampler right now. Decent Sampler. Where is it? Oh, it's Decent Sampler bin. Okay. Decent Sampler bin. Password. Okay. There, we've got Decent Sampler installed. And then we just go into Ardor and have it rescan the plugins. Skip that one because it always takes forever. Alright. We've got Decent Sampler installed now. There's Decent Sampler. And I do have some still installed because I copied over my home folder. I just didn't have the plugin installed. And yeah, it's a cool plugin. I like it. Or The forbidden song. Making music in Linux is hard, though since a lot of software doesn't work there, I switched to Windows back so I can use Ableton again, so respect. Yeah, so Ableton makes a lot of things a lot easier. But yeah, like there's a lot you can do in Ardour. It's just there's a bit of a learning curve, but it's not too bad. It's not too terribly bad. One thing I will warn is it does like to crash. It does like to crash, especially if the plugins have bugs in them. But it's certainly workable. It's certainly usable for actual real music. And there's the other thing is if you're on Arch Linux, there's a meta package. It's Pro Audio Tools, I believe. Yay, Tech QS Audio. We'll say Pro Audio. Oh yeah. This right here, that meta package. If you install this, it's going to install Ardour as well as like a whole bunch of other programs that are useful for audio stuff, as well as a whole bunch of open source plugins that are in the repository. And like, just scrolling through, this is all the shit that's included in the Pro Audio meta package. That's all open source software. Like, it's a ton of stuff that's in that. And you can just download it for free. It's just available. There's comparable applications for like every one of these that would be like $20 each, and every single thing is free. Like, open source is so powerful. It's so good. It's amazing. It's freaking amazing. Yeah. So, I guess getting back to the original thing, what makes something interesting? I think what makes something interesting, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why you would find something interesting, but it's probably something along the lines of being able to take some bit of information from it and being able to apply it to your own life. Like, even with stories and fiction, it's there's the narrative, and then there's like the moral to the story, right? And you take that moral and you apply it to your own life. Like, you read 1984 tells you a lot about, it's a warning about what the government can become. And so if you read 1984 and you're like, man, I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about what that could end up like. I'm going to take that knowledge and I'm going to make sure I'm aware of that happening and not let it happen to my own government. And that's why 1984 is interesting. And so I think that's what makes a lot of fiction interesting, is when there's a nugget of information in there that you can take and apply it to your own life. And I think that's what maybe makes it frustrating encountering media from people we politically disagree with, is that a lot of that information is maybe information you already know and disagree with. And so it's presented to you as if it's something you don't know. and it comes off as not useful, and as a result it's not interesting. And that's maybe why we don't like stuff when it gets overly political, when we disagree with it. Maybe I don't know. It's so freaking complicated. The freaking brain. The human brain is freaking complicated. Humans are complicated. Like, this is not something that's easy to understand. And I don't fully understand it. And I'm trying. I'm Open source is cool, but Photoshop is better than Bruh. Oh, I don't have the window capture. Where is it? Here. Bruh. Fight me. Bruh. Fight me. I've used GIMP, and I still use GIMP. I have used Photoshop. I used Photoshop back when I was in college. I know a lot about Photoshop. I like GIMP better. Fight me. I have not used Sci2 or Krita or DaVinci or Kdenlive. I use OpenShot. I don't use Kdenlive. Okay, make a circle. All right. Was it There's a circle. There's a circle. Yeah, it is GIMP. Like, I've used GIMP for a long time, and I use it a lot, and I know how to do a lot of things in GIMP. It's honestly, editing memes in GIMP is okay. Make a stroke on text. Okay, I don't know how to do that one. I don't know how often I'd actually do that, though, but a lot of the things that I end up doing are influenced by the tools that I have available. So, that's not something that's very easy to do. But on the other hand, like, try to do, like, say, like, filters, render, IFS fractal? No, not IFS fractal. Filters, render, flame, yeah. So, zoom. Let's do that. Oh, whoop. Let's do transparency. We'll fill this with that. And then on our transparent layer, do that. And then colors. Yeah. Do that. And then on another layer, we'll do mode, about maybe HSV hue, and then we'll do gradient. How about full saturation? Yeah. And then, we want to do a radial. No, we'll do spiral. HSV color. That's what I needed to do. How about that? How about that? That's pretty cool. And then we'll merge that down. And then we'll do gmix qt kaleidoscope polar. Let's try that again with maybe kaleidoscope. Ooh, kaleidoscope blended. That looks cool. Killer tiles. Oh, that looks cool. Let's try that. That looks kind of cool. That looks kind of cool. All right, now let's do now we'll do degradations, chromatic aberration, X amplitude, and X amplitude by amplitude for the red, X amplitude by amplitude for the green. Like that. Yeah? And then we'll do pixel sort. And then like lower the mask threshold. And then sort by saturation. No. Sort by intensity. And then do x-axis and y-axis. Okay on that. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. All right, do that in Photoshop. Do that in Photoshop, bitch. So, like, different tools are good for different things, and the things that I can do in GIMP are very hard to do in Photoshop. And some of the things that you would do in Photoshop are maybe difficult to do in GIMP, but I don't really do that very often because the things that I do in GIMP, you know? So, different tools are different. Different tools are different, and I'm not going to argue that. But what I will argue, GIMP's a pretty fucking good tool. I'll probably get into GIMP instead of Photoshop because Photoshop feels like it's a software that needs 9 gazillion RAM and whatnot. No, I'm not a nerd that doesn't need to prove anything. Yay! Okay. Yeah. It is kind of trippy. Yeah, it's like glitch art. I like glitch art. And that was you know, that was that stream. Like, yeah. I did that already. I did it already. So, like, I think this is interesting, right? Like, I think this is interesting. I think this is interesting. I think this is interesting. You know, that was interesting. I think this wasn't quite so interesting because I just went live and like played piano for like 10 minutes and honestly it wasn't very good, especially if you compare myself to someone like this guy. This guy's so fucking good. and like he does these really really great piano streams. Like this was one I watched. Is it playing the audio into?
Go behind the walls with this one. And also have
Where's the piano? This guy's so freaking good. Go. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. Go subscribe to this guy right now. Right now. Because he's fucking good at piano. He's so fucking good at piano. It's ridiculous. Like some of his videos, like, no, this is what he does. Like, this is what he does. He'll like record himself playing piano, but they're, oh, it's not outputting. I'll start it over from the beginning. And it got disconnected again. What the hell? What the hell? That's so weird. I only make one thumbnail till now, and I made it by putting elements into OBS, then screenshotting it. GIMP is a step above that. Oh damn, I gotta study that dude. Yeah, he's really freaking good at piano. But I'm not gonna play like his whole stream or like his whole videos, because I'm not gonna steal his content. I just fucking appreciate it, and I think it's really interesting. I think it sounds really good. Go give him a subscribe, because I appreciate his videos. I think they're really great. I literally found out about him through the algorithm. Like, I was just, going on YouTube like as you normally do, and one of his videos popped up and I was like, god damn, that sounds really good. Sounds really good. So yeah, I appreciate that guy. Most moral reaction to it. Yeah, thank you. So reaction streams. Is that interesting content to just take a video and play it without adding a whole lot to it? I think it can be if you're signal boosting it, right? Like, because like I said with copyright earlier, it's kind of shitty that you can't take something and build on it, and reaction streams to an extent do that. But on the other hand, to just take it and essentially just re-upload it without adding a whole lot to it, that's, again, going back to the flow state, I think that's maybe down, or maybe even down here, right? I think that's like down here where like there's not a whole lot of challenge and you probably have the skills to do something more interesting. Or do something a little bit more challenging than to just play it. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you're just starting out streaming and you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're just trying to figure out OBS. You know, you know what? I'll give you a pass. Who gives a fuck what you do? You're still just trying to figure things out. But like if you're XQC, XQC's got a lot of skill, right? Like he got to start doing Overwatch videos, you know. Are you really having fun? Just sitting there watching that? I don't know. Are you challenging yourself? Are you pushing yourself further, like watching the same thing or watching YouTube on stream all day? Like is that a challenge? I don't know. I would think they'd get bored, but maybe not. It's hard to say. I got my Mountain Dew. Maybe they are bored. Maybe they are bored. Maybe I'm getting bored. You know what? No, I fuck it. I definitely am getting bored cuz like I'm not pushing myself. I'm not taking on as much challenge as I should be taking on. You know, you look at someone like Brolame though, like he's fucking up here. Like he says he's here, but he's like he's always like pushing the bounds of the fucking scale. Like he always feels like he's down here and then raises the challenge level. And then he's like, "No, I'm bored. Got to raise the challenge level again." And then he's like, "Oh, I'm bored again. Got to raise the challenge level again." And like he's fucking off the chart. He's fucking off the chart. So, gotta go. It was fun watching you. Thanks, man. See ya, son. Yeah. But yeah, like you need to stay in the flow if you want to have fun. If you want to maintain energy and you want to maintain interest. Yeah. But I'm repeating myself. I'm going down the same path again, and like I'm thinking I think I've made my point. I think I've talked about the things I've wanted to talk about. I still don't think I fully have an answer of what exactly is interest or what makes things interesting. Like it's still extremely elusive to me. But I don't think I'm ever going to fully have an answer because it's such a complicated thing. Like it's a very fractal-like concept. It's very difficult to fully understand. And I don't think I will fully understand it. But I tried. And I think I've got a grasp on maybe a useful theory, at least. Somewhere to start with. Something that I can use as a measure to, at the very least, ensure that what I'm doing is interesting, which is what I'm aiming for. But I don't think I have a fully encompassing theory for what will be interesting. Context really plays into interest. I don't think you can fully abstract it to a pure form. I think you're absolutely right. Because, yeah, like, we are a biological human, we are biological beings with, like, we're not cold, calculated, mathematical computers. we're made of meat, and meat does weird things. Like it's biological blobs. So yeah, like if I want to, like that's my instinct, is to try and form an abstract theory of it, but I don't think I think you're right. I don't think it is possible to have a simplified abstract theory that fully describes it, because it's so messy. And I think that's as close as we're gonna get. I think that's as close as we're gonna get to the answer that I want. But I think that's still more useful than where we started. I think. And with that, I think I'm probably gonna read names and end it here. So I'm gonna scroll all the way up to the start and read everybody off. Dad Mac Gaming, thank you. Temp, thank you. Dazzle, thank you. Squishy, thank you. Hoshi Umbra, that's a new name. Thank you. Test 3-san, thank you. Dazzle Clips, thank you. Dumatius, thank you. The Ranman, thank you. I think that's everybody. Again, like I say this every stream, and I'm going to keep saying it. There's so much stuff out there on the internet that is interesting that you could be watching instead of watching me. And I very much appreciate it that you take your time to listen to what I have to say and take a look at whatever the hell I'm up to, because who fucking knows? Like, I change my mind every fucking day, you know? But, like, yeah, like, to sit here for however long you decide to sit here, that's a big investment of time, and it's time that you could be spending doing literally anything else. So it means a lot to me that you guys come here and do that for me. So yeah, thank you guys. Like, when I read the names and I say thank you, I really, really mean it. Thank you. I love myself schizo rants on metaphysics of customs and societal shenanigans. Yeah, this is a little bit schizo. This is a little bit schizo. But you know what? We can get a little bit schizo sometimes. It's okay to get a little bit schizo, and then it's all for the sake of content. It's all for the sake of being interesting. And I hope it was interesting. I hope it wasn't just a muddled bag of nonsense, because it kind of felt like that a little bit to me, but I think there's a little bit of sense in there. I don't know. I hope you guys were able to get something useful out of it. And if you were, that's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, I very much thank you guys for coming. The correlation with primal needs was great. Thank you. That's, yeah, that means a lot, that there's actually something useful to pull out of that. But yeah, I think with that, I think I'm probably going to end it here. thank you guys for coming. Trying to use the graph to control flow is an interesting yeah, the flow state graph. Yeah. So thank you guys very much for coming. Stay safe, stay healthy. I hope you guys find your interests and stay in your flow state. And you guys have a good one. Good night, everybody. Live streaming. End stream button. Bonk.